ESPN Esports League of Legends free agency show. This is the very first time that we have done something like this. We are very excited to ring in the start of 2020 League of Legends season free agency with you. And with that, lives are going to change, careers are going to be altered, millions of dollars are going to be flying around. Millions of dollars have already flown around. We're going to talk about that and so much more. But first, let's introduce our squad here at ESPN Esports, starting with myself, Art Ocal. I'm your top laner, the traffic cop, making sure things are moving along, setting the table. Then we got our jungler, Fionn on fire, baby, Tyler Erzberger. Ooh. You are setting the tone. How you doing?
I just got back from Europe, 46 days watching the World Championship, covering it live, and I have to say, it feels so great to be back for the free agency show where NA is finally relevant again after 46 days of utter failure and embarrassment.
I don't know if you know this, but NA is just fine. We won the Overwatch World Cup, okay? So you can relax.
Okay.
This is true.
Emily Rand, one of our great analysts and writers with ESPN Esports, knows everything that you ever want to know about the LPL and LCK in particular, but is here talking all things LEC and LCS. You're playing the role of coach, so you're keeping us in line, making sure that we are in check.
Yeah, it's the role I keep telling people I'll never take because, but apparently I'm a masochist today, so we'll go with that. I'm still getting over the shock that an LPL team actually won Worlds, despite, I can never believe in them, even analytically, when it looks like they're going to win, I just can't believe in them.
And you predicted it, though.
No, I predicted.
Their name was.
Oh, you said the Chinese teams wouldn't win.
Yeah.
Oh.
Their name was the theme song. Of course they were going to win.
And you got a tattoo from it too.
Yeah.
So how about that?
I'll show it off a little bit later.
You show it off on social media. Our supports are actually in Los Angeles. We got Miles Yim, and we got the prophet himself, Crumbs, joining us from our LA studio. Gentlemen, how are we? There's Crumbs. There he is. Nice beard, my dude. Nice Movember mustache you got going on.
Right.
There's Miles. Right. How's it going?
Super excited for this, man. The leaks, we have been hearing them for weeks, and we've had to stay tight-lipped the entire time, so finally we can let it all out.
I guess in the position meta, I'm sort of the actual support here. You are the carry.
No, we are double
I am supporting you.
We're double supporting. We're Sona DK, we're Sona Tarek. That's what we're playing here.
Fine, I'll be Tarek.
Nice.
I'm sure that Crumbs actually could play the role of GM too. Or we can make him a Crumbs bomb based on what we saw at Scouting Grounds.
Yeah.
Scouting Grounds.
But,
I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we all know that you are here for a different type of bomb, the Wolf Bomb, which brings us to our AD carry. Of course, the one that is always in perfect position and swoops in at the last second just to get all the credit. But in this case, very deservedly so, in a completely perfectly placed, undisclosed location somewhere on campus. We got the Wolf Dog himself, Jacob Wolf. Look at that. What's going on, Jacob? How are you, bud?
Oh, it's good to be with you all. I'm expecting today to be the next couple hours to be really spicy. A lot of different things moving around right now across the LCS, the LEC, and even internationally as well. And I'm pumped for this to be going on.
So basically what's going to happen is you're going to be there the entire time, and you're going to be breaking as much news as possible as soon as free agency begins. Anything you can tell us before we begin? Well, I mean, we've already been breaking news all day.
Right. So we broke earlier today that Smoothie and Biofrost will be switching with one another. So Smoothie will be going to CLG and Biofrost will be going back to TSM. We also broke that C9 is acquiring Vulcan from Team Dignitas for $1.5 million and an Academy AD carry named Johnson, who will play on the Dignitas Academy squad. And then, I'm expecting a lot of movement here across both regions here in about 25 minutes.
All right, so just to break it all down and for everyone to understand exactly how the breaking of the news is going to work. At the top of the hour, we all know this, that's when League of Legends free agency begins. When you hear this sound, it's coming. That's the one. We stop everything on the show. We go directly to Jacob Wolf, who will bring us the news. We bring it back. We talk about it. And even seconds later, if we hear that sound again, We're going back to Jacob. So that's exactly how the show. We're going to be interrupted. I have a feeling.
Yeah.
Any over/under on how many wolf howls we will hear on the show?
Yesterday I said we would get 15 over dinner after getting the rumors, having texts, everyone giving us what we think might happen. I think we can hit 20. I think we can break 20 with being around Jacob all day, what I'm getting, what he's getting. No bamboozle. We have a show ready for you. There's going to be a lot of big moves, a lot of excitement. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, Jacob has been fielding calls all day. Like he'll be talking to us and then he'll just like take a phone call and be taking like furious notes. So I said last night, because I'm a pessimist, as we talked about with LPL teams, right? So I said last night 5. I'll bump it up to 8.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So
That's not pessimistic. You increased the number.
Look, I'm an optimist now.
Yeah.
Sort of.
We're going over 20. We're going over 20.
Going over 20?
We're going over 20.
I'm going to go the opposite way and say 0.
Whoa.
None. There will be no wolf howls on this show at all. I'm just kidding. There will definitely be wolf howls on this show. By the way, tell everyone to tune in on Twitch, twitch.tv/ESPN Esports, or we are also live on the ESPN app, on YouTube and on Twitter. So tell everyone the hashtag on Twitter to use is FA Live Show. And I imagine a lot of people in the League of Legends community, some players, some GMs, probably some owners will be watching this show. Carlos, hello. From Spain, we appreciate you tuning in. Jack, good to see you. Cloud9, full effect. You're probably in the chat right now. Maybe you and Liquid Steve can do a deal, broker a deal in the Twitch chat. Break some records here, set some history.
Cool.
A Twitch first deal ever brokered in Twitch chat.
I bet it would be.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about before we get to free agency and what undoubtedly will be the plethora of news that we will have to talk about. Let's talk about some of the things that have already been announced, the wolf bombs that we've already heard of. Vulcan at $1.5 million buyout is a huge topic of discussion.
Yes.
Actually, Miles and Crumbs out in Los Angeles, I know you have a lot of thoughts as it pertains to this particular number and what this might mean for the economics and the ecosystem for players and salaries and buyouts. Crumbs, I can just see you stewing in that chair. Tell us what you think of this number, my friend.
Listen, this was not the first big move that Dig made this offseason. It was the Hooney trade that was really surprising, the $2.3 million contract over 2 years. And then we learned that, okay, they have received the buyout for Vulcan as well. So maybe they got Hooney for a little bit cheaper. And what we're really starting to see is that the entire ecosystem is really being shaped by the offers that other teams are making. So even though the value of a player might not be multiple millions of dollars, if they're getting offers from all the other teams and one organization is relatively new, they don't have much to offer that player, so they have to go and shell out a lot of cash, and I think that's what we're really seeing. We have a lot of big players just swinging a lot of money around, and they just have to defend themselves.
Yeah, Hooney's deal sort of really set the tone for what players are going to be offered. If you're going to sign a contract that gets you about $1 million a year and you think you're as good or better than Hooney, that's sort of the baseline that you're willing to accept. And I think it's interesting that Vulcan's buyout clause was $1.5 million because you're going to see that money probably funneled into filling out the rest of this Dignitas roster. Right now, unless they sign Lyra, they don't have another jungler and they don't have a mid laner, assuming that Hooney stays in the top lane, and they've said that they're not going to sign DeMonte. So it's a really interesting ecosystem that we find ourselves in, where once again, salaries are skyrocketing, and we're not really sure what the relative values of one player is over the other one. It's an exciting time if you're a player. I know Crumbs maybe a little feeling, maybe you should have stayed a professional for a little longer.
I don't know if I was making over $1,000 a month when I was playing. It's charity work.
Yeah, man, start grinding it, man. The money is certainly there, and it will, again, be interesting to see what Dignitas makes of it in terms of roster building, but also how this sort of ripples out and affects not only the North American ecosystem, but the European and Asian systems at large.
Let me bring it back to the studio here, Tyler and Emily. Hooney, 2 years, $2.3 million. Vulcan, $1.5 million buyout. Is it interesting at all that it's C9 that is paying that figure, simply because in the past we have seen Jack to be a buy low, sell high kind of owner, right? Like we have seen him really build strong teams from a foundation and then sell those players.
I think you're forgetting one thing here. So EG obviously coming in with the rumored Svenskeren deal. I know Crumbs knows a lot about that. So they got a lot of money back for Svenskeren, and that deal with Kumo, definitely Zazel. they use that money to flip to get Vulcan to bring him on the squad. And the AD carry, whoever may be starting on C9 this upcoming season might, particularly wanted to play a Vulcan. So we'll see how that, unfolds as the night goes on. But I think whoever, is playing with Vulcan in that bottom lane for C9 very much wanted to play with Vulcan.
I think this also follows, C9 as an org is actually known for scouting North American talent and kind of trying to raise it. So I do think it's interesting that it's Vulcan specifically because he is a North American support. He was featured at Scouting Grounds. He also, in my opinion, had a pretty strong showing at Worlds, despite the fact that, Clutch ended up with a pretty tough group, didn't exactly perform probably as well as they wanted to. I still think Vulcan had a really good showing, and that definitely caught a lot of people's attention. I want to loop back to something that Miles also alluded to in that how this can affect other ecosystems, because previously we've seen how LPL contracts affected how players valued themselves when they were going abroad, especially from South Korea. And I think what I am hearing is that this is also going to affect how South Korean players value themselves when they're looking at Huni's contract and they're like, hey, Huni is making this much. I feel like I am just as valuable as he is. How much can I get from my team in South Korea, or how much might I be able to shop myself around for in other regions?
I know we're going to talk about your favorite free agents around the globe, possibly in the LPL and the LCK, but do you think this slows things down, particularly in the LCK? Once you hear this number, do teams sort of take a step back and say, whoa, hold on a second, this is driving up the market way too much, we need to let this calm down, and then we can negotiate?
My guess is that LCK teams probably aren't super happy about this.
No, they're not. I can confirm the LCK teams are not happy.
Yeah.
I think the Huni contract and some of the other deals that are going on currently have set the market. And the players in South Korea, your BDDs, your UCalls, your Cons, your Clids, they are going to be looking for prime time deals. And that is going to set the market very, very high. And only a few teams can match that. And a lot of them are in China. So
let's talk about one of the other trades. CLG and TSM exchanging supports, Smoothie and Biofrost changing positions. Biofrost, of course, a little bit of a coming home here. Maybe Bjergsen had something to do with that. I find, first of all, let's talk about the trade, and then let's talk about Bjergsen. Does this improve either team with a one-for-one swap like this at support?
I mean, I think it's kind of a lateral swap, right? And it really depends on what each team was looking for. I think Smoothie is known a bit more for his shot calling or his voice on a team. So maybe CLG was looking for that. And then Biofrost is, already familiar with TSM. I feel like there are many reasons why they'd want to bring him on for not only his laning, but just they're already comfortable with his play style. They know his play style. Again, they're familiar with him. It's kind of a lateral trade for me. I don't think one organization won out over the other. So if this is what they both wanted, then it's a net positive for both of them.
Yeah, I agree with Emily on that point. When you look at they're both very highly skilled supports, two of the best we have natively in North America. I think this is good for Biofrost. He goes back home to say, as you brought up, he had his most success on TSM. And throughout, leading up to this, there's so many rumors about TSM, so many things coming in and out about TSM, what the bottom lane is going to be, what they're going to have for jungle. I think Biofrost is a very first good step at what could be a paradigm shift for the TSM franchise that has, fallen back in the last 2 years. They've been trying to find that roster that can bring that back to former glory. And I think if they can get the stars aligned on who they want, I think TSM fans are going to be chanting TSM maybe at Worlds next year. So.
But will they invade second blue?
What?
Will they invade second blue?
No, probably not.
Wow. That would be the first year they've never done that.
I actually believe in TSM. I think they're my team to watch tonight.
And TSM believes in Bjergsen, of course. He was the biggest name going into free agency. Miles and Crumbs, I'll bring you in on this one. I find it to be a very interesting dynamic, right? Bjergsen now has equity with his new deal. We know that we don't know the financial terms per se, but we know that he owns a part of TSM as a result of the new LCS rules. Doesn't that put, I know that maybe Bjergsen is not the guy to sort of exert this power per se, but doesn't that change the dynamic a little bit, knowing that the player that you're playing with in this game, in these matches, owns a part of the company? And so essentially whatever he says goes. If it didn't already before, it definitely does now. And don't you feel like as some players might walk on eggshells as a result?
Yeah, of course, right? You always have to think in the back of your mind, man, I missed that gank on mid lane. Does that mean that he's going to exercise his power? But I think Bjergsen is highly professional and would actually be very careful about making sure that whatever he's doing for TSM as an organization does not leak into the League of Legends team. Keep in mind, TSM is such a giant organization. I mean, they're huge in Fortnite as well, right? Like, as far as we know, this equity could not actually be exercised in some capacity for affecting the League of Legends team. So I think he's going to be fine with that. But I do want to say to you guys, I think it's a clear win for TSM to get Biofrost over CLG. I think Biofrost was a better performer, was hard carrying CLG, and to top things up, they already have experience with him, whereas CLG has never tried a smoothie. What if the style is not what they want?
Yeah, it's interesting because the last two supports for TSM have been relatively vocal supports in both Mithy and Smoothie, and now they're bringing in Biofrost, who, while he was on CLG last year, was sort of categorized as a shot caller, somebody who had a voice in making sure that CLG knew what they were doing on the Rift. So to bring him in, TSM must have a way to have some familiarity, temper that idea, or they're going to use him in a different way. But talking about Bjergsen, I think he's sort of always been felt, at least as a part owner. There's that mentality of Bjergsen that he has always been untouchable at TSM. They're not going to get rid of him. They're not going to trade him. He is the face of the brand. So if we're talking about eggshells walking around him now that he's an actual part owner of the team, I don't see how that changes the dynamic of the team at all. Because throughout the last few years, TSM has always sort of looked at Bjergsen not only to be their face, but to be the primary voice in whatever they are doing. And to see any difference in that, I think, is going to be...
But it could happen.
It could happen.
Definitely happen.
It could happen.
Well, Bjergsen, of course, is a very familiar face to TSM fans. We do have some new names coming up in 2020 in the LCS, so let's get everybody caught up. Just in case you are not, Optic Gaming will now be known as Immortals. They acquired the Optic parent, Infinite, for $35 to $45 million in capital in May. Meanwhile, Dignitas, formerly Clutch Gaming, they acquired a majority stake in Clutch for $20 million in April. And the Echo Fox slot, Jacob Wolf had done a lot of reporting on Echo Fox and the situation there. They were kicked out of the LCS in August, and Evil Geniuses acquired the slot for $33 million in September. And let's keep with Evil Geniuses because Jacob did report prior to free agency that 4 Cloud9 players will be making the move to EG, including Kumo and Deftly and Zazel and Svenskeren at Jungle. So that's very interesting that we're hearing news that those 4 players are leaving from C9, and then you hear about the Vulcan buyout going to C9, a little bit of transfer of cash there. But what do you make of EG making a big splash like this, saying, bring us your roster like this?
First of all, the fun thing about a live show is that if you see me on my phone, I'm getting flooded with texts of people talking about moves that are happening. It's happening in real time.
You're going to divulge your sources? Or are you
not right now. But yeah, 14, 13 minutes, we're going to get some wolf bombs in due time.
Okay.
But looking at EG, from everything I've heard about them, they are going, I don't want to say all in, but they are looking to compete with Team Liquid immediately. EG versus TL is one of the oldest rivalries in esports. StarCraft, where I came from, 2010, 2011, Idra, Huck, Jinro, that was my day and age. That was my, bread and butter. That's where I came up from. And now we see it now in 2019, 2020, League of Legends. EG, I can see them looking. They have Svenskeren and Zazel, so I think they're going to be looking for an import, maybe, mid and top solo laners. And if they can get, there's some really good solo laners in the market. And if they can get 2 of those players, maybe from South Korea, maybe, I think South Korea is probably where they're aiming, but if they can get the players they want, I think EG is going to look very scary.
So chances are these 4 players may not necessarily start on Evil Geniuses. Maybe we'll see more moves we don't know, or maybe one of them will be sent down to an academy team, whatever the case may be. But what do you make of EG? Basically, the first move we hear about them being that they grabbed 4 players from one team. Is that a good strategy, or do you think they should have plucked from singular teams?
I mean, I don't think it's a bad strategy because if some of the other moves, because I do think they're looking at trading some of these players, to be quite honest, or basically using them as equity to get the players that they want. I think Sven Skaren's definitely the one that will, like, for sure, without a doubt, start of this group. I hope Kumo gets a team because I think he is super talented, just as an aside. I want him to be starting in the LCS, whether it's for EG or for another team. But I think the most interesting thing about this move is that it gives them a lot of leverage because they can trade away some of these players, or if everything falls through, they still have a really good core that is familiar with each other from when they were on C9, which is like a good way to start. Again, if everything else falls through, I actually don't expect these four to start together. I think it'll be Sven Skaren, and then they'll be looking at what they can do with the rest of the roster.
We have so much to talk about on this free agency show. And by the way, the hashtag on Twitter is hashtag FA Live Show. We are live on twitch.tv/ESPN Esports, on the ESPN app, on YouTube, and on Twitter. We haven't even gotten to the two giants yet, G2 and Team Liquid, of course, in the LEC and LCS, which is what we're focusing on mostly for this show. Now, when you look at the list of available free agents, I'm sure there's one name in one of those teams that everyone has their eyes on and waiting for that one signing to happen so that all the dominoes fall behind it. But when you look at the free agency pool, Emily, let's start with you. Which name really sticks out to you as a great free agent and one that you're really looking forward to seeing find a home?
So I know this is kind of a weird pick. It doesn't match up with anyone else's, but I really like Xerxes. I think he has an interesting jungle style, and I think he can kind of morph himself to fit on a lot of different lineups, which in my opinion makes him a pretty valuable free agent. We've seen him do different things while he was on Unicorns of Love and then also Splice. So I think that he is pretty malleable. I think he's receptive to feedback. I think he's a good voice to have on a team. And so I really like Xerxes. He's kind of my favorite free agent and the player that I'm looking forward to finding a good home.
Who do you think would be a good fit for him?
Oh man, I haven't even thought about it
Okay.
because like I don't know the rest of the rosters, right? So it's really going to depend. I just think he's that malleable.
Tyler, let's go to you. Who's your free agent pick?
Oh, it's such a tough one. It came down to two players for me. Upset from Schalke, and the person I did pick is Kave.
Always bending the rules, right? We asked for one. He's like, I'm going to give you 7.
I'm like, I picked Soaz, and I picked Xerxes, and I picked POV,
I did land on Kave, coming from Splice.
Okay.
Well, since coming in 2016, he's just been Mr. Consistent. After having a rough first rookie split, he's just, each season, he's top 3, top 4 in Europe, in one of the toughest regions for AD carries. You can plug him on maybe any team that can go late game, and I trust him. He's a late game insurance. He's that Teddy style type of player where if it gets past 30 minutes and he gets his 4 to 5 items, I trust him to bring the game to bring the victory to the team he's playing with. So I really like Kave. I think any team that can grab him this offseason has a very consistent player. So yeah, Kave was my pick.
Any teams?
If I said that, it could be a spoiler. So.
Oh my gosh, are you withholding from us?
I'm not withholding.
Wow,
Free agency
come on.
is only a few minutes away.
Someone add that in post, a nice graphic there. All right, let's go to Los Angeles. Miles Yim, let's start with you, my friend. Who is your #1 free agent that you are spicy looking forward to finding a new home?
I'll go a little hipster here and say Power of Evil. He's a guy who newly free agents for CLG and has a lot of potential to not only carry a team, but make whatever team he joins an instant playoff contender. I think his time in spring was more of a carry performance. He got a lot of resources in lane and was top of all mids who could He led all mids in kill participation for those mids who played over 12 games, and his experience coming from a Misfits background, who competed at Worlds 2017, immediately came to North America to chase that North American contract. There is a carry potential, a leadership potential, a reliability factor with him that I think can make any team he joins, be it Evil Geniuses, be it Dignitas, maybe re-signing with CLG, could go to 100 Thieves. All of those teams instantly become playoff teams when he joins them. So I'm really excited to see how Power of Evil's free agency movement affects the market.
All right, so Miles, Power of Evil. How about you, Crumbs?
All right, there is one guy I'm really looking out for. It's Medios, because he has only missed one playoff in his entire career. Every team he joins literally gets a playoff. And if it wasn't enough, he actually has more experience than almost all the LCS players currently. He's been playing before the LCS season. And for any new team that wants to rebuild and add any rookie talent, it doesn't get any better than adding a jungler that is a veteran. That is one of the most vocal roles. He's going to be able to teach a lot of these players what they can do to get better. And if that wasn't enough, he has one of the best brands in the league. The guy gets on the show half the time. All the videos that he makes are popping off. I think he's an absolute stud when it comes to getting picked up by any of these teams. He's going to have his pick of the litter. And there's a lot of teams looking for junglers. A lot of contracts are expiring. He's going to be able to get paid wherever he goes. And if he does not get on the top team, this is an absolute mistake for any team in the offseason that did not consider him.
So there are your picks. Emily says Xerxes, Tyler says Kabe, Miles, Power of Evil, and Crumbs with Medios. Now, before we get to, we're almost at the top of the hour, minutes away from the beginning of League of Legends free agency. And remember, when you hear the wolf howl, everything stops and we go right to Jacob Wolf, who will have some breaking news. 57 free agents available. That is the pool of players that have played at least one game in the LCS or LEC this past season. Now, why don't we have some predictions? I know Tyler already has some things in the bag, apparently. He's not going to tell us yet, but let's make some predictions before we get to the top of the hour. Tyler, starting with you, what do you think, what move are you banking on happening at least in the next 2 hours?
I think TSM will be happy with their bottom lane. That's
Okay. Happy with the bottom lane. And there are, let me actually take a look here. There are 6 AD carries on the free agency market available. 2 of them being, those are team needs, sorry. 2 teams do need an AD carry right now. So very interesting pick there. How about you, Emily?
We will see a North American mid, at least one, in the mid lane.
Hopefully.
Stop laughing, Crumbs. Get out of here.
Hopefully. Not if Team Liquid has something to say about it, I guess. How about...
That's my hope. Come on, guys, please.
Yeah.
Just give us one.
I just came from scouting grounds, like, believe in any talent.
How close are we to a team of, like, all naturalized imports?
Ask
I
Steve.
think we're like we're 2 years out from Steve having an entire...
Double Lift is literally the one, he has a sword and he's trying to, stop Steve from doing the dream import, 5 import dream.
Oh, man. All right, Los Angeles. Crumbs, let's start with you. Free agency prediction?
I think Team Liquid will get stronger.
We are so
It's a good prediction.
Contract is expiring. Amazing. And how about you, Miles?
I think we'll see a Korean support signed in North America. There are 3 of them
there,
currently available. I think we'll see Ignar, Gorilla, or Woodid, some sort of combination, might get signed in North America.
Or Tucson.
Thank you, Miles.
Or
Okay,
Tucson.
thank you,
Thank
Miles, for
you.
giving us something.
Clear
Hey,
take.
here's my prediction. Something might happen with Golden Guardians.
You're not wrong, Arda.
Like, thank you, Miles, for at least giving us something to chew on. I love it. Oh, man. All right, we are about a minute away from free agency. Very exciting here. Once again, let's just reset. The hashtag is FA Live Show. We do have a live tracker, by the way. If you go to ESPN.com/esports and you think you missed any of the transactions that will be breaking here or that have already happened, it will all be on one page at ESPN.com/esports. You can go there and check out that one free agency live tracker that will show you everything you need to know. Don't forget that we are live on twitch.tv/ESPN Esports. We are also live on the ESPN app that Tyler is currently watching right now when he is not talking to sources on his phone. Feel free to turn it around, by the way. Turn your phone around.
For someone to get fired.
You're going to get up and take a phone call at some point. I have a feeling. Like, sorry, I got to take this. Hey, Jack, how's it going?
We're 1 minute away, and Jacob is about to break a lot of news. A lot of news. So,
and we're also live on YouTube and on Twitter as well. This is exciting. This is very exciting.
Yeah.
So remember, just to reset, you hear the wolf howl, we go to Jacob, Jacob's got the news, and we have 13 seconds to go. Now we have 10 seconds to go. What's going to happen? Free agency is upon us. What will 2020 look like in the League of Legends, LCS, and LEC? Oh, we can only wonder. We can only guess. And there we go. What a shock!
Wow!
No! Not two of them!
Wow.
Jacob, tell us what's up, man.
Whole pack out there.
So, Rogue is giving their support, Vander, a 2-year contract extension, and additionally are acquiring Han Sama from Misfits, the team has told ESPN.
There it is. So, contract extension for Vander and Han Sama moving over to Rogue. Now, Rogue did not have the best season last season. What do you make of these moves? And do you think it will improve the team? Emily, let's start with you.
I mean, I like the Vander extension a lot. He's a support I respect. I think watching him and Hans Sama together is going to be interesting because Hans is someone who I see is really good on certain carries and then really might struggle on others. So I see him as someone who's a bit more meta dependent, but I'm really curious to see how their lane is because I like them both as players, and I think they could be a really strong duo together.
I've always been really intrigued by Han Sama ever since I first interviewed him back in 2017 at the World Championships where they almost defeated SKT. He's always been this prodigy to say. Everyone's always expected him to, live up to become the next Reckless, to be that next great AD carry from Europe. And he's gotten there at times. And there's been points around in his Misfits career where it felt like he was about to, break into that superstardom status, and then he would fall back, fall into inconsistencies, and kind of, be a bit flat. I think this is a chance on Rogue on a young team of a lot of young players where we can see him go from this, inexperienced young player into be a more veteran role. So I'm very excited to see how Hans plays with Vander, and I think it's a very good spot for Hans to kind of restart his career and try to, go away from that, to be the next big superstar and try to just be that consistent carry that Rogue will need next season.
So there's some stats on Vander. His residency is Europe. His 2019 team will be Rogue. And he played 24 games, a 2.9 KDA. That was 5th. He ranks among 12th among supports with a minimum of 10 games. So he's coming in there. And, of course, Hans Sama will be joining him from Misfits. So Rogue missed the playoffs. They were actually at the last place in the spring split. And in the summer, they lost to Schalke in round 2 of the playoffs. Emily, I feel like they had one need, which was at support, Rogue, basically looking for that position there. And it looks like they've decided to keep with Vander. And they did have a good summer. It was more successful than the spring. And you got to think that momentum will continue into next season.
Yeah, I was actually really, pleasantly surprised at how they managed to turn around things in the summer. And then I will say I do think Hans Sama is more of a proven not proven quantity is probably the wrong way to say it, but I do think that he will be an upgrade to their bot lane, despite what I said earlier about maybe a few champion pool issues and being slightly meta dependent. I do think on the champions that he is comfortable with, he looks incredibly, incredibly good.
Yeah.
So if you can get him on those champions, I think that's where he's really going to shine, and that's why I'm super curious to see how well they do as a bot lane together.
Are you at all surprised? I know Hans Sama, definitely a quality player. They already have 2 AD carries, maybe a couple of academy players there in Hikyu and Woolite. Are you at all wondering that they might have gotten a chance to start, and what will happen with them now with Hans Sama in the mix?
I think Rogue last split surprised a lot of people by making the playoffs and kind of almost even making Worlds. There were people that wanted Rogue at Worlds as a 3rd seed. I think Hans brings in a player that can upgrade them from this pesky underdog team and bring them into real contender status with players like Larson and Finn in the top lane. I think this team is finally going to mature over 2020, and I think their goal by the end of 2020 is not just to be that fun team that can upset people. They want to be one of the top dogs in Europe, and I think this is a good place to start.
So over to Los Angeles, Crumbs and Miles. Vander was really the only free agent that had an expiring contract on Rogue. So you got Finn, Prophet, Inspired, Larson, and now Hans Sama at 80 carry. What do you make of that roster, Crumbs? Let's start with you.
I think this is a move that actually was probably started from the players. I think if Vander getting that re-extension is a sign to me that they were trusting him to say, all right, who do you want to play with? And so the fact that Hans Sama has come in, I think, is a big telling sign that this team really just wants to make this specific player work after seeing the struggles that he had on Misfit all year long. So I think that this is a really good move for them that they're going to feel really good about, because I definitely think that the players had a much bigger say in this. And other times when a new organization comes along and they're trying to get the players to come on board and they don't really know who they want to keep for a long time, Rogue has decided we're going to double down on Vander and we're going to trust him to the fullest.
Yeah, I think it's interesting for Rogue, a team that in my debates with our European friend Adel Choadria, he would always tell me, oh, Rogue, this super underrated team, they have this great ceiling, expect a lot from Rogue. And then their inconsistency never got them there. They had that nice 3-0 over Splice in last split's playoffs, but that's really their ceiling. That's all really we saw for them. I'm interested to see how Hans Sama responds from a year basically, or a split, basically being on the Misfits bench after that entire starting five was benched in favor of the Academy team. So a lot to prove, both from Hans Sama, that he is still a top-tier LEC AD carry, and also Vander, for him to be proven worthy of this 2-year extension that he's just been given.
He's going to get a pass for that year on Misfit, that time on Misfit. You
It
get
wasn't
1
his
year
fault?
pass.
It
You
wasn't
get
his
1 year
fault?
pass.
Okay.
What
Yeah,
about
blame Fevin.
So what about Misfits then? Let's bring it back to Bristol here. What about Misfits? I mean, this was a team that looked really good on paper, didn't necessarily perform as well as people might have thought, but now they have players like Febiven, who is available for a buyout apparently, but still under contract. You got Gorilla, you got Soaz, who are free agents, and now Hans Sama has left. You have Neon there, but I believe that might not be enough there. What do you guys make of Misfits now, and what are their pressing needs?
So previously, I would say that Misfits, who were like one of the most hyped rosters, including myself, like
Yeah,
I was one of the
same.
people who really loved this lineup and loved the players on this lineup, didn't work out. I feel like this is our reminder, and I feel I'm probably going to constantly be the wet blanket and be like, remember last year's Misfits, remember 2015 OMG. Rosters don't always look as great in practice as they do on paper. And I think that is what happened with last year's Misfits roster. It wasn't like, I don't want to say like it's any one player who was underperforming, and or even that there was like something incredibly significant internally that went on. Like if there was, I don't know about it. But it just seemed like they never really found a groove together, and they never really performed as well as we thought they would when we first saw the lineup announced. So I think it'll behoove Misfits to go in a different direction going forward, instead of maybe trying to create a super team, which is pretty much what they tried to do last year. And then I hope Hans Sama, again, like Miles said, he is able to go on Rogue and really prove that, you know, I still am one of Europe's top 80 carries. I can still perform really well.
Oh, yeah, the Wolf Howls continue. Jacob, what do you got for us?
So Cloud9 will be trading Academy mid laner Golden Glue to Golden Guardians, where he will start in return for Academy mid laner Palafox, who will play on Cloud9 Academy or be traded before the end of the offseason.
Hey, we got
We got one! We got one!
Oh. So C9 will trade Golden. So GG's to GG, who's going to GG?
We got native mid laner.
I was right.
we got an American mid
Brand
laner.
synergy is just
That is, yeah, there you go. And Palafox will be coming back to C9. Sorry, I'm just writing this down so we can have them here and I can reference them. Let's start with LA on this one. Miles and Crumbs. So, Golden Glue to Golden Guardians. Here's the thing. Golden Glue has had chances before in the LCS. I wonder if this is his last chance, but I also wonder if this is his best chance, given the cultural fit that there might be between the two GGs here.
But Arda, there's more at stake here. Who is Golden Glue replacing? He's replacing Froggen. That means that Froggen is no longer starting for the Golden Guardians. That's a huge deal.
I guess he likes it here in North America, so maybe he'll just take it to streaming. I think the brand synergy is pretty strong between Golden Glue and Golden Guardians. This is a move that I thought about that they should have made last
I'll
year
give you a fun
when Mickey
anecdote.
left.
I was actually the first person to look at Golden Glue from solo queue and bring him on Team Dignitas to try to get it into playoffs, but then I was like, not ready. Then we brought back Skara, but still, it kind of counts. I'm glad to see him get his chance to really start for a team, but he's really going to have to pull something out of thin air here, though, because Golden Guardians was highly dysfunctional, and the mid lane was not entirely the problem. So he's gonna have a really tough task if Golden Guardians does not do more to change the roster, because they had issues with the bottom lane that they kept flipping. The jungler was never in synergy with everybody else. Top laner Haunter was really sick, but he was never being incorporated in everything else. So I think that the Guardians need to do a little bit more than just switching Golden Glue into the mid lane, because that's not enough.
It allows them to play a different bot lane, I believe, because they're not
Yes.
using an import slot.
You
So
can
last
now
year it was FBI and Huhi, and they had to do that because Froggen was in the mid lane. Now that they have a North American player in the mid lane, you can bring back the other bot lane of, I believe,
Ole.
was it?
Ole, if they like
You can
Ole,
play
yeah.
Ole. Right now they don't have Deathly anymore. It's Keith currently under contract. So how that bot lane works out, Golden Glue might have a bigger say in which players make that starting roster.
Where's Froggen, though?
Yeah, where is he? Does
fine,
anybody
fine.
have him on the phone?
Wait,
Jacob, can you find Froggen?
Call it
How does he feel
Froggen.
about this?
Where's Froggen? What happens to Froggen? What?
There's
Stunned.
a lot more moves to be made tonight, Arda.
This is unacceptable. Tell us right now. Just go.
Let's go.
It's live camera right there. Come on, Tyler.
Let's go.
Come on.
Let's talk about this trailer. Let's talk about this trade.
Fine.
I know we've talked about Golden Glue. I just want to say I love.
Like everyone's going.
I love this trade for C9, actually. I know people are going to focus on Golden Glue. I'm a very big fan of Palafox.
Okay.
I embedded with his scouting grounds team 2 years ago. I think
And here's the roster right here for Golden Guardians, by the way.
Yeah, Golden Glue, great pickup. I don't want to overlook the Palafox move to Cloud9. If there is one organization I trust in NA to develop a young talent, to develop someone and bring him to the next level, it's C9. I think Palafox, with a year or two of seasoning in the C9, incubator, I think he is a player who can definitely be an NA starting mid laner for an LCS team if given the chance. I really like Palafox. I like this trade for both teams. I think Golden Glue deserves one final chance to actually prove that he is a top level starter and can start for an LCS team. And I want Palafox to succeed. And I know with Cloud9 they can bring him there.
What happens to Froggen?
I don't know, because he is technically still under contract through 2020, as far as I know.
A lot of ATO parties.
So yeah, we'll find out. I mean,
I know nothing. I'm saying there's a move happening. I
I'm-
know nothing. I don't.
I'm
I
just
have
saying
no
we got
I'm just
an
saying.
NA mid, right?
Yeah.
Like,
You got
no,
one.
but so jokes aside. Justice for NA mids. I think the thing I'm the most interested in seeing is how Golden Glue can work with contracts, because I feel like contracts is a jungler who has looked different depending on what mid laner he has played with. So I think a lot of this team's success will depend on contracts' synergy with Golden Glue and how they can work out how they want to play, because contracts really likes to go for a lot of, let's just say, riskier invades sometimes, or some deep dives that he needs a partner in crime for. And so we'll see if Golden Glue can help him out with that. That's what I'm looking forward to the most when I look at this roster, because I still in my heart of hearts think that contracts can be a good, solid jungler if he is more consistent, and having a more consistent mid laner will help out with that. So hopefully Golden Glue can do that for him.
So there's the move. Golden Glue will be going to Golden Guardians. And of course, what happens with Froggen as a result is completely up in the air. How about C9, though? So we talked about the evil geniuses. We talked about the Vulcan buyout, bringing him here. We also have Licorice, Blabber, Niski, and Sneaky. And we don't know, I mean, there's a lot of talk out there about what the next step or the next move might be for Sneaky, if there is one. But when you look at that roster and you look at how C9 has operated this offseason, it's definitely a departure from the norm. But what are you looking at in terms of, and here's the projected starters here. Tyler, what are you looking at from Cloud9 this offseason?
It's so difficult when you talk about Cloud9 and Sneaky, because Sneaky is the lifeblood of the team. I think if you look at all the top teams in the world, they have one player that kind of makes the color or the identity of the team. You look at TSM, that is Bjergsen's team. You look at FPX, that's Doin's team. SKT, Faker's team. And Cloud9 forever has been that trolly, jokey, laid-back team, and it's a lot due to Sneaky. He's the most untiltable player in the world. I've talked to so many of his teammates, and he just doesn't get tilted. He can be in a 5-game series in the World Finals, and he's going to joke about Chipotle after. So I'm very.
I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Chipotle.
So I'm very, very interested to see if Sneaky, does move away, maybe goes to being a streamer, or he gets traded, or he gets moved to the academy. How is this team dynamic going to work for Cloud9? Who's going to take that mantle as kind of being like, the leader, the captain, the identity of the team? And it could be the new AD carry, whoever it might be, if there is one. Or you could see someone like Blabber or Niski or Licorice step up to be that, new leader role.
I'm the most curious about Blabber. I think he can be a really good starter. Obviously, I think that last year he was not as obviously not as experienced, but with experience in the jungle position, right? Especially when you're looking at junglers, experience is so valuable because, and Crumbs can probably back me up on this, because it teaches you how to jungle is such a reactive position sometimes, and it teaches you how to react in different situations. The more repetition you get in the jungle.
Yeah.
So I want to see Blabber start for a split. Like I want to see how well he does and how much he can develop. If as a regular starter when he's not kind of sort of coming in for Svenskeren or they sort of abandoned this the past year, but the year previous, C9 was really adamant on using their full lineup. So even if they weren't subbing out players, their academy team was constantly scrimming their main team and making sure that players were swapping back and forth, getting experience and playing based on how they wanted to play. So I really want to see Blabber go through an entire split and see how he develops, because I like his attitude in the jungle. I like that he's so forward. I like that he's aggressive. We saw him diving bot tier 1 by himself on Elise, which maybe wasn't the best idea at the World Championship, but I appreciate that. Sure. Maybe I watched too much LPL. And that's it. But I want to see how he does.
You can never watch too much LPL.
With a full split. There's a lot of it to watch, yes.
I want to get, Crumbs, I want to get your thoughts on this, of course, as a former player and an analyst. With your point of view, if you're Sneaky, put us into Sneaky's shoes. What do you think he's thinking right now, and what is his next move?
I mean, Sneaky is one of the older players, right? He's been around for a while, but he's not an 18-year-old star right now. And I know that the conversation has always been of, this year, at least in particular, is he done, right? Is his cosplaying affecting his play? And I was always under the impression that if he wanted to play, he will continue to play. And that's my stance on him. I think if he wants to do it, he can. However, he's now realistically at a crossroads where he could just make an alternate career path for himself. So as a person, not necessarily as an LCS competitor, he can go elsewhere, which is not a luxury that a lot of LCS players have. So he's going to have to do a lot of soul searching and decide if he really wants to commit to another year of Worlds. And if he's a competitor deep down, you're going to be really bummed out that NA failed again at Worlds. And you're going to ask yourself, am I really going to go through this again just to fall short of the mark? So I don't know where he's going to end up going, but I know he's definitely having to think of multiple options, and many of them include not playing professionally.
I think that motivation is definitely there, especially considering the way that Cloud9 sort of flamed out in the group stage. But I'm also looking at his life right now, and what a fantastic life it is. He has this excellent cosplay side where he gets to dress up as whatever super kawaii waifu that he wants to on the given day. His girlfriend helps to support him. That relationship seems fantastic. And then he's an incredibly popular streamer as well. So from an esports perspective, like, A, do you need it with all of those things that you can just fall back on? And B, what else does Sneaky have left to prove as a player? Basically a world championship, or at minimum a finals appearance. No other North American AD carry has made the world semifinals, which he did in 2018. So I would totally understand it if Sneaky just hung it up and said, you know what, I'm going to go back and do the cosplay, do the streaming. It seems like a fantastic life.
Sneaky to Mixer.
See, I feel like he is a...
Was that a Crumbs bomb right there? Sneaky to Mixer?
Whoa. I feel like the argument...
It's like an ASMR, like crunching of a cookie, and that's your sound.
as Crumbs.
Crumbs, get it? Okay, anyway. Okay, Boomer, everyone in the chat, go ahead. Okay.
I'm close to, and I have a
Tyler, you can't keep doing this to us, man.
I actually have a Fion bomb. Give me a minute, and I can announce it live. Actually, I'm gonna beat Jacob. I'm beating Jacob for once.
Okay, hang on.
This is coming.
Basically, this is peak esports. We got an announcement before the announcement. That's what Tyler
Give
just
me a
did
minute.
there.
Give me like 60 seconds.
Way to go.
All right.
Do
Well,
you want to just wait on that, Tyler? Actually, while we wait on that, why don't we bring in a special guest? He is the general manager of Rogue. He is Fly. Tommy joining us on the show right now. First of all, thank you very much for your time. And yeah, you've been very busy in the first minute of free agency, Tommy.
Yeah, it's been a crazy day. We've been preparing all the documents and everything to be ready for an announcement. And we're pretty happy and excited having finally being able to announce the transfer of Hans over here with us.
So talk about Hans Sama and the reason that you decided you wanted him on your team. What impressed you about him this season?
So it starts a little bit further than just Hans. It's been about our team culture over here, the one that we set up with Reg Global and Anna Baumann over here in Berlin. We set up that plan last year, basically where we will go for a 2-year plan long, and we get the players, conditions, and everything set up in Berlin while we're building up a core of players that we can basically go for 2020 around. And when we bring that superstar that we believe in, which is Hans in this scenario, we managed to get all the conditions and everything set up with him, with the content team, with the office being fully set up, having no Berlin issues, internet, and such. So now we managed to do that, and we brought Hans in, who we believe fits exactly the culture of the team, which is a really young, try-harding people that are really willing to sacrifice everything to win titles.
And Vander being re-signed as well, Tommy. How early were those conversations had? Like how soon did you know that you wanted to re-sign Vander and he was a key part of your main roster?
So pretty early, to be honest. We were obviously discussing different options that we have for what to do with Vander and support position in general. And what we wanted from a support is someone that is going to really complement in a good way the AD carry that we're picking up. So the moment we had Hans signed with us, not signed, but agreed mutually, Vander was just the easy choice because he really complements the style and the needs of what Hans has. And that's basically the reason we went with Vander at the end.
I have to ask the question, can you give us the term? Like, do we know how long? Can you tell us how long Hans Sama is signed for?
Both Vander and Hans Sama are right now signed for 2 years until the end of 2021.
Nice.
Okay, so 2 years, end of 2021. Very good. Let me ask you, take us into the life of a general manager, particularly as we lead up to the day of free agency. Like, how often are you talking with players, other GMs in the league? You know, like, it drops now, but like, how frantic is this night and this day for like maybe the next week or two? Like, how busy is your life?
So it's really depends on organization and what the GM position is going to be in each organization. With us, I'm really closely involved with the players and the coaches and everyone. And in going into that day, it's been a lot of contract work, a lot of paperwork, a lot of making sure that everything is clean with Rad, that we're properly doing everything. The general life of general manager in my position is working with the players, working with the coaches in a sense, really closely in my position, which is, I'm sorry, I'm hearing some echo and music from you guys.
Oh, sorry about that, Tommy.
No problem. So yeah, it has been a lot of who exactly fits in the culture that we've built together with the coaching staff and our performance coach Ismail. It's really about the personalities of the player, about the personalities of the players, about the skill, how they fit, how they match in style-wise, and every single possible angle that you can think of, how they match together, have been considered by us, and that's what we talk about on a daily basis.
Tommy joining us here on our ESPN Esports League of Legends live free agency show. Thank you very much for your time and joining us, Tommy.
Thank you. Have a nice evening yourselves and enjoy that off-season
Thank you.
hype.
Right on. So there you have it. So 2 years, we know the term now through 2021. You're stewing in that chair. What's going on here?
Do I get like a flame sound, a fire, a crack?
Is that what you want? Okay,
You
hold
have
on.
A Fion boss?
Yeah, you have the The bomb's on the table.
There, you got one.
All right.
What do you
so
got?
I can announce that T1 has re-signed Effort to a 2-year deal. So one of the hottest and best young supports on the market is returning to the rebranded T1, no longer SKT. T1 Effort will be on the team for 2 more years.
Okay, so you're working the LCK angle. Emily's got the LPL angle. Jacob's in the Wolf Den talking LEC and LCS. Let's talk about T1 because it was such an interesting year for them, right? I mean, they were not prone to completely changing their roster, right? We've seen that happen before, and then we see them have success, not necessarily the success that they were wanting early this season. Then they find their stride again, right? They make it to Worlds all the way to the semifinals and run into G2. How do you grade T1 season, Emily, and this move in particular? How does that position them for the future?
I mean, I like the move for Effort. I think they started playing him when they wanted someone who would be a lot stronger in lane. Whereas Mata, I mean, given his experience, like he's a legendary player, right? But in terms of laning mechanics and the fact that the 2v2 is so important, and even like a 3v3, or if you're FPX or a lot of other LPL teams diving the entire bot lane repeatedly, I think Effort is the stronger laning choice. And I like him. I like this re-signing.
Oh, he couldn't give me.
See, you know what happened?
He
Jacob
couldn't give me 1 minute.
That's it. Jacob was like, no. I'm breaking the news on this show. Jacob, what do you got for us?
So former Origin support Alfonso Mithi Rodriguez Aguirre will be moving to coach Fnatic, where he is going to be replacing Young Buck, who left Fnatic last week to take a job with Excel.
Okay, so that is very interesting because Mithi is one of the most revered and respected in his position in all of the West. He has had success. He has LEC championships, appearances at Worlds. So now moving on to coach. Very, very interesting here, Tyler. What do you make of and replacing Young Buck, who recently left as well?
First off, he couldn't give me 1 minute of glory.
Get over
He
it,
couldn't
come
give
on.
me 1 minute. He had to. Okay, anyway, on to Mithi. Obviously, we don't know much about coaches. I actually have been very upfront about, I didn't vote for Coach of the Year last split in the LCS when I was a designated voter. I said, we don't have enough information to dictate what is a good coach in the league. We are not there every day of the week. We might get embeds where we're there for a day or two, and we might get, pick up some things that the coach do well, but we really don't have any idea of how good a coach is until you have to really live that life. So Mithi on paper is a great coach, right? One of the most respected, decorated players of all time in the support role. So going into a coaching position, it could be great. It should be great. But we've seen other top players before who are considered very smart, very intelligent, come into these roles after winning so many championships, and they don't live up to expectations. So I'm very excited to see what he does on Fnatic, but I don't think we should, be anointing him, he's gonna take Fnatic to new heights. I want to, wait a split, wait 2 splits, see how he does at the end of the 2020, because Fnatic is a very difficult roster to handle. I mean, they were not happy at the end of the World, so it's gonna be very interesting how we can, Reckless and all those different personalities on that team and kind of keep them, in check.
So I think the cool thing about Mithi, so I actually agree with you. I think it's really difficult to evaluate what a coach does for a team, and really only those players can evaluate it. But one thing that is cool about Mithi that I heard from his teammates while on Origin is that he helped lead a lot of their post-game discussion and stuff. So it was basically like he was kind of acting as a coach a bit already. This is something I heard from multiple players on the Origin lineup of the past year. So I do think he is prepared to fully step into that role without being a player.
I will say this, of all the players with Mithi in their name, I was not expecting Mithi to be the first to have news about it. Just saying. Okay, boomer, got it. Okay, so let's talk about Fnatic though. Right now, they don't necessarily have any free agents. Their coach did leave, but I wonder how much of this roster will remain intact going into the LEC next season.
I've never seen a team try to show that they are happy with each other. It feels like every other week there's we actually do like we work together. We don't hate each other, guys. We don't hate each other. And I don't think that, Fnatic hate each other. I don't think there's this war between players. But I think there's a difference between being coworkers and being cordial and working, going 9 to 5, doing your job and going home, and being friends. Like you've seen the friend teams before. G2, that's a friend group. It doesn't matter that they lost, 0-3 in the finals. They will go out and party together and have fun and, be brothers afterwards. Fnatic might not be that team. They don't seem to be that team. They weren't happy. They didn't have a lot of happy times last year, per Reckless in his post-game interview after losing in the quarterfinals. So Fnatic,
to the eventual winners FPX.
yeah. But it's Fnatic is a very difficult team. Reckless has such a high standard he sets for every one of his players, and we've talked about this before. Team identity, that one player that sets the identity of the team, and that's Reckless for Fnatic. So for Fnatic, you have to be up to Reckless's level and be putting in the same amount of work he is, or it's not going to work out. So it's a very high-stress situation at Fnatic. And for Mithy, he's going to have to learn how to keep all of those, big players, big personalities in check. And they have a lot of talent. I think Fnatic's a very good team. I don't know if this will be the starting 5 we see, coming into next season. But I'm excited to see how Mithy does with Reckless.
So that's Mithy becoming the coach of Fnatic, and that's, of course, not the only transition that... Never mind. Let's transition to Jacob Wolf. What do you got for us?
Hey guys, so we just talked about Origin. There's another change as well. So they will be, Excel will be signing former Origin AD carry Patrick to a 2-year deal where he will be laning with Norskeren, who they are finalizing a buyout with from Splice.
Okay, so Patrick joining Excel, that roster changing. What do you make of that?
I like it. First thoughts coming into it. It's interesting. Patrick, formerly Sheriff, came into with H2K, was a very interesting prospect, had a lot of hype, similar to Han Sama. I don't know if he fit exactly well on OG. He had times where he looked as he should have been, one of those top players of the position. I think going to XL with Young Buck and having Norskeren moving over, I like Patrick a lot. I prefer Sheriff. I like him as Sheriff, but XL is very interesting. I think XL, after being, bomb in the basement in EU for 2 seasons, they're putting together a team that can... I can see them very much similar to Rogue last year.
And here's the roster right here, by the way. So we got Expect on at top, Cage Roll jungle, Patrick at AD carry, Norskeren at support. Now this is a team that was pretty much in the basement of the LEC the entire season. So Emily, looking at this roster, I know we have a little bit of a mystery there at mid still, but is this a team that will do better than last year?
I mean, I think they will. I think the actual big signing for XL, and again, we don't know how much coaches do, so that's the caveat. But one thing that didn't appear on that roster lineup was Youngbuck, who they took from Fnatic. So that is also really interesting to me in terms of who is going to shape this new team. I think the Patrick Norskeren lane is really interesting because I still think they're 2 players who are still fairly young and have a lot of room to grow and develop with more LEC splits. So again, like whenever I look at players meshing together in the bot lane, like I really want to see their laning synergy. I never know whether teams try like bot laners and supports out together. I kind of hope they do, just because I feel like laning synergy is something that's actually massive. So I'm curious to see them together, and also the Young Buck signing for XL is something that's really interesting to me as well.
I have a question for Los Angeles. Before that, I just want to reset here and give a little bit of a recap of what has happened since the top of the hour when free agency began. Rogue, the first thing we heard on the show was Rogue is extending Vander with a contract there, and Hans Sama has been signed to a 2-year deal coming from Misfits. Then C9 has sent Golden Glue to Golden Guardians, GG to GG. Palafox comes back to C9 Academy. Then T1 has re-signed Effort to a 2-year deal. That is actually a Fion bomb. A Fion bomb that lasted about 8 seconds because Jacob reclaimed the bomb crown afterwards, with Mithy retiring and going to coach Fnatic, replacing Young Buck to XL, who then signed Patrick at AD carry, and Norskeren going there also. That was a previous Wolf bomb before that. By the way, if you have missed any transactions while you are watching this, you can go to ESPN.com/esports. We have a live tracker. Every single transaction will be there, so you will be completely caught up. Hashtag FA Live Show on Twitter. We are live on twitch.tv/ESPN Esports, also live on the ESPN app, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Now, speaking of transitions, speaking of changes of your career, 100 Thieves has experienced one at the GM position, LA. Crumbs, I want to hear your thoughts on Papa Smithy. Nobody is debating his knowledge of the sport, okay? Knowledge of League of Legends. Very evident that he is among the thought leaders and the most well-researched individuals. How about him as a general manager where there are extra challenges outside of the game to deal with?
I think he's going to absolutely crush it. Keep in mind, Papa Smithy has a former background as I believe it was a high school counselor, which is actually the perfect level of counseling you need to coach an LCS team. So this is a great fit. The fact that he has all the experience from casting as well means that he has seen the international level of play for more than a lot of us have in our lifetimes of playing League. He casted, I think, every single LCK match last year, which is just incredible. And the fact that he now comes to North America, I know he's going to be ruling with an iron fist, seeking only the best. And I think that that's a really great fit. And even if they struggle to ramp up, I think over time it's going to be the best choice overall, because you have to keep in mind that a caster is actually knee-deep in everything when it comes to the League of Legends teams, whether it's talking to the players, researching solo queue, keeping up with patches, understanding the internal conflicts that are leading to poor performance or great performance in an organization. So he's going to have a much better overarching view of what an LCS team success looks like than many of the current GMs who really don't have that direct League of Legends experience. They may be experienced in management or experienced in building rosters, but when it comes to combining all of those in one, Papa's the full package.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he decides to do with this roster, because it's very much a clean slate for him. There are openings in top, in jungle. If Amazing decides to leave, he's been allowed to look for other teams. They have openings in the mid lane. Bang is really the only player that they have through contract, or we expect to start next year. Then there is an opening in support, obviously. So what Papa Smithy can bring, or might bring, is that Korean level mentality in terms of changing the culture from a North American work ethic to a Korean ethic after having been in Korea for many years. Will he exercise those connections in Korea? Maybe bring over a gorilla that he seems to have a very, at least on Twitter, a very snappy rapport with. There are a lot of options for him to go, and where he decides to index, is it with the youth? Do we bring back Saligo in the mid lane? Do we keep Fake God in the top lane? Who is our jungler going to be? Are we going to re-sign Anda? There are a lot of choices for Papa Smithy to make, and I think it's very interesting and very positive for 100 Thieves that somebody so experienced and so in the know in both the Korean community and the North American community, and frankly the LAC community, has his hands behind the wheel.
Will he start someday? That's what we need to know, Arda. Is someday out of academy yet?
Well, he will decide on that someday, I'm guessing.
Terrible.
Oh no. Cut his mic.
That's all the time we have, guys. I gotta go. See you later.
Yeah.
See you later. Yes. Well, how do I even go lower than that? All right. Speaking of free agents, Jacob Wolf, before he is extremely busy in the Wolf Den breaking news, decided to give us his top 5 free agents of this free agency. Let's have a look. So there you have it, the top 5. Vander, who is no longer a free agent, at number 5. We got Kabe, who was also Tyler's pick at number 4. Xmithy is number 3. We haven't talked much about Xmithy. I feel like he's number 1 on a lot of people's lists who are filling out fantasy brackets at home. Upset at number 2, and Xerxes, which is Emily's pick, at number 1. Xmithy. The dominoes have yet to fall at the jungle position. Is it fair to say that a lot of teams are A, bidding on Xmithy's services, and 2, if they are not the front runners, waiting for where Xmithy decides to go before they look for other junglers that are available?
Yeah, I think he is the big domino. I think when Xmithy signs, when we know where Xmithy's going, everything else will follow, because there's so many junglers that are waiting for that chain reaction. I think the big thing is if he re-signs with Team Liquid, I think we see, a small wave, right? I think we see players move, but I think it's a small wave. If he signs with a team like 100 Thieves, FlyQuest, Immortals, Dignitas, that's when the big waves start, because that means Team Liquid's opened up a spot where they're probably looking import, maybe looking at like a Broxa, a Self-Made, maybe a Korean jungler, and then all hell breaks loose. So when Smithy signs, that's when everything gets crazy, and if he signs for a team that's not Team Liquid, things go bananas. It's just gonna be.
How likely is it that he does re-sign with Team Liquid?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think TL wants to have him back. I think Smithy is incredibly valuable.
Oh!
That better be Smithy news.
Jacob, complete the sentence. Smithy has signed with blank.
So unfortunately, I don't have the Smithy news yet. But this is a jungler. So I am hearing that Fnatic are finalizing a buyout agreement with SK Gaming for jungler Self-Made.
Nice.
That means that Broxa will no longer be playing for Fnatic and Self-Made will be moving teams.
Oh man.
Okay, so Fnatic gets Self-Made from SK Gaming. So
Oh my God,
you
Missy.
just talked about some possible junglers from EU, and now we got a deal with Fnatic getting Self-Made. So Fnatic, that roster is building there.
Self-Made is so good. As long as he doesn't build Infinity Edge on Rek'Sai, I think we're going to be pretty good. I think he's one of the most.
I forgot that.
Yeah, don't forget that.
Here's
Never
your
forget
projected
it.
starters for Fnatic.
Never forget Infinity Edge Rek'Sai in a do or die game. But Self-Made, in my opinion, is one of the best young talents in the world. Not just Europe, not just the West, in the world. And I think it's a no-brainer on the talent side. But when we were talking about this early, big personalities, Self-Made on Fnatic with Reckless, with all these explosive personalities, how is it? Mithy's gonna have, if Fnatic does well, Mithy's gonna, probably get a gold star, right? Like, it's a very volatile group of players that are very prideful, and I'm very curious of seeing how that's gonna, churn out. But Self-Made has the talent, and I'm very excited to see how he plays with Reckless. Illinois. What a fun lineup.
I mean, I'm really curious to see, because Broxa is someone that we've both praised and criticized, I guess, for his tendency to over-focus one side of the map, which means that most likely Bwipo is calling him top and/or Reckless is calling him bot. So I think he was always kind of split between where to go, and he tended to over-focus on one side or the other. What I want to know is if Broxa isn't starting for Fnatic, and if he's headed somewhere else, what does Broxa look like on a team that's not Fnatic? And additionally, Self-Made, who's known for, some really creative early looks. He's known for being really aggressive. He's known for taking risks and having them pay off because he's just that mechanically talented. I want to see what happens to him on Fnatic. Does he tend to over-focus on one of his side lanes like what we saw Broxa do? Or is he just going to be like, no, guys, I'm invading. I'm doing what I want to do. I want to see what that looks like because I really want to see whether it was was it Broxa himself? Was it Fnatic, the team? Was it a combination of both? And then how is Self-Made going to fit in with that roster?
There are 8, if you count starters and those who were playing in Academy and played a game in the LCS or LEC, 8 junglers, 5 in North America and 3 in Europe that are available in free agency. Here is SK Gaming's roster. Sakurai at the top. We are waiting for more jungler. Jungler is a very hot.
Yeah.
You could literally call this free agency the Jungle Book because that is really the position that is highlighted right now. Why are you giving me that face, Emily?
I'm just cringing.
I'm
all the
0 for
dad
12
jokes.
on jokes with Emily. It's fine. Janax is at mid, Crown Shot at AD carry, and Dreams, a non-resident player, at support. What do you make of this roster, Emily?
I think Self-Made was a huge part of it. And so when we looked at this roster coming together, there was the core that came from the same Academy team, came onto SK, and that was one of the reasons why they were so successful. Self-Made was a huge part of that. So now that he is no longer there, I want to see what that does to their team identity because I feel like he was such an integral part of their team identity.
Let's go to Los Angeles with this. Crumbs, Miles, how would Broxa look on Team Liquid?
Ooh, it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. Keep this in mind, okay? This is one thing that a lot of people forget during the offseason. The game is changing again, right? The map is changing. And if Broxa's tendencies to over-focus on one side remain, there's a good chance that the game's new balance actually favors that. Because maybe the bottom side with the Dragons is going to be busted, or maybe the top side change is going to be busted. There's a lot of things that could happen that actually make him an even stronger player. So I think that the move of letting go of Broxa is a big mistake. And if he comes to Team Liquid, that's going to be a crazy team that I really hope makes it out of Worlds. Can we get that? Is that too much to ask?
Yeah, I think Broxa really provides a cutting edge for Liquid. He's much more aggressive than I think Xmithie was, even though Xmithie has that ability to be an aggressive jungler. I see a lot of forward-thinking, very straightforward play from Broxa. There are a lot of places in North America he could go. He could become 100 Thieves. He could go to CLG. He could go to Dignitas, he could go to TL, and he could go to TSM because Sven is a free agent right now and hasn't been officially re-signed. So there are a lot of options for him, and of course he could also stay in Europe. He could go to Misfits, who currently doesn't have anybody right now on their roster with the departure of Hansama. There is an opening in Schalke, and there is an opening at Splice, assuming that Splice has not re-signed Xerxes. So Broxa has quite a few options, and most of them good for him to go.
But if he comes here, he gets paid.
LEC is franchise, though. They should be able to offer him something.
Much. You don't get paid
Okay,
as
well,
much.
if you go for TL, then sure, maybe he gets paid. But I feel like you could find equal salaries nowadays, both in Europe and in NA. What do you think, guys?
Depending on the team. Depending on the team.
You thought Crumpset made a very good point there, Emily.
Yeah, I actually think that's an excellent point because the changes that are coming to the map are, in my opinion, massive and approaching game-breaking. So I do think that if they remain as they currently were, kind of in the iteration that they were introduced to us, I do think that could play into his play style, and whatever team he is going to hopefully has some strong side lanes that he can support.
There's so many junglers. There's so many jungle openings. It's wild. I mean, I think people are going to see this move of Southbait and be like, oh, it has to be Broxa Team Liquid, Broxa Team Liquid. You know, it's in the stars. It's going to happen. But like Miles said, there's so many possibilities and there's so much money out there and there's so many openings in the Western team in the jungle position. We really don't know yet. Until the domino of Xmithie falls, then everything else goes with it. If Xmithie signs with a team that's not Team Liquid, then the Broxa go to Team Liquid, because Selfmade's gone now. So if Selfmade's gone, I've heard that Griffin is locked away all their players. So there's no Team Liquid Tarzan. I'm sorry, Team Liquid.
Stop putting Tarzan and Chovy on whatever team you want.
I'm sorry, Team Liquid. I'm sorry, everyone else who wants Griffin. But it seems like Griffin is gonna be locked away. They've given the players some hefty raises. Damwon as well. So no Canyon. So it's a thing of, when Xmithie does sign someone, if it's not Team Liquid, I think Broxa to Team Liquid is going to be the play. But until that time, and we hear that howl.
Steve, Liquid Steve, by the way, feel free to throw in the chat some updates on what's happening with Xmithie, assuming you're watching right now. So just go ahead, just let us know in the chat. Hey, Xmithie is blank. I just signed him 2 minutes ago. I'm texting Jacob now. Whatever it is. Doesn't matter. Emily, actually, we've been talking a lot about LCK players right now, so why don't we talk a little bit about some of the free agents that you have your eye on regarding the LPL and the LCK. What do you got?
So the first one is actually going to be kind of a surprise. I don't think a lot of people think of coaches when they think of free agents, but I actually think the fact that Nofe is free is huge because this is the original coach of the Rocks Tigers. He did some great stuff when he was on EDG. And I think that he actually did a really great job with a super young Afrika team last year. I really liked a lot of the things Afrika did. I thought they were good for Korea overall. I thought they made a lot of aggressive plays that maybe not other teams would try out. And sure, sometimes they weren't successful, but I really liked a lot of the looks that Afrika gave us. So Nofe is kind of my first, and then we can kind of slide Komet in there because I also found out he is a free agent. So those are two coaches I'm looking out for. Clid, the SKT jungler, is a free agent, which is
Yes.
absolutely massive. I loved Clid when he was on JDG.
Here's some information on Nofe there on the screen, by the way.
Yeah, I thought he was a great addition to SKT this year. I thought he really propelled them to look at their early game and try more things early because he is so mechanically gifted and he really focuses on making aggressive moves early. So I really like what he did on SKT. I thought it was great for their team. I don't know if they're going to re-sign him. Hopefully they try to hang on to him because I think Clid is an incredibly valuable asset to SKT specifically. So yeah, Clid is the next player I wanted to mention. Then we're going to LPL with Karsa, who I think Karsa, maybe people might be disappointed with his performance at the World Championship this past year with Royal Never Give Up, but I still think he's an absolutely phenomenal jungler. I think he'd make a great addition to any team, and if he doesn't re-sign with RNG, I'm really curious to see where he goes because, again, he is, I think, still one of the absolute top junglers in the world. I know that's probably still a controversial statement, especially since, you know, people are looking at Clid, they're looking at other junglers. Oh, yes!
Save that last one for whoever it might be. Jacob, what do you have for us?
Hey guys, so Misfits is signing former Vodafone support Dinnick and jungler Razorg from Vodafone Giants. These are two players who have played in the Spanish Regional League, and now they will be coming to the LEC.
All right, so we got a couple of fresh names joining Misfits there. It's always nice to hear stories of teams looking elsewhere other than other LEC or LCS teams and looking, you know, C9 has done this really well for years, right? It's always nice to see them give young players a chance, or maybe oftentimes their first chance, like Misfits just did.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the LEC, especially with the success of G2, the success that they've had with rookies, is really willing, because they've had such successful European rosters, to look at their own players. I've heard, I'm going to admit, I don't know a lot about these two players. I've heard really good things about Razork, actually. He's pretty young. He's a jungle talent. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know a ton about them, but I'm always excited when I see players get bumped up from regional leagues in their own region because I like when regions tend to focus on their own talent.
Similar to her, I don't know much about these players, but you look at this, and from being from NA, it's like, will an NA team ever really do this? Except maybe Cloud9, but even Cloud9 brings them up, you know, more slowly, gives them more care before actually giving them time. It's a thing of, I would like to see lower ranked teams in the LCS, the teams that aren't, you know, not every team can compete every year. That's just the fact of the situation. So instead of, for the lower ranked team in the league who don't have the rosters to compete with the Team Liquids or the, you know, Cloud9s, I would like to see them invest in this younger, you know, talent and trot them out there. You're going to suck for a year. Misfits might suck for a year, but as we saw with Rogue last year...
But they weren't great last year either. They missed the playoffs, both splits.
That's the thing. So they save money. They're investing in young, homegrown talent, and if everything goes right, and if they can develop their players well, and they have the infrastructure to raise them up, we saw what happened to Rogue last year, where Rogue almost made Worlds. If you breed the right talent and you have the right foundation behind you, you can make these players into superstars. You don't. And if you see some of these organizations who don't have the infrastructure and just buy imports because they have results, and they fail.
I want to send this to LA, and Miles, let's start with you on this one. The fact that it's two players that have played together on a team, so that chemistry can already be there, and they're bringing them here, presumably they will start with Misfits. Let's just assume for this question that they will, right? How much does that, even at that level that they were playing, they weren't playing at the LCS or LEC level, but how much does that cohesiveness, the fact that they have at least a year of experience playing on the same team, factor in when they're joining a new team?
I think it makes a big difference. These guys are champions of the Spanish League, and especially considering what we just saw out of FPX and the way that they were able to run their support, jungle, mid triumvirate was amazing in that they were able to win a championship off of it. And I think that trio is very important to be able to be on the same page and to execute your game plan down the stretch and to be able to play a style that can roam but also have the ability to play for the late game. So the fact that these two players come in from Giants and now are on Misfits really leads me to believe that they will have excellent synergy and that they give themselves a fighting chance. I like that Europe has this confidence in their supportive/academy league.
You can go with that. I'm going to call it something else.
So like, you talk to a lot of North American coaches, and they look at the ping and they look at the solo queue environment in North America, and they say, you match up our guys versus the same sort of tier of guys in Europe, and you just see a complete difference. The European guys are better. So with that in mind, I'm not surprised that Europe is willing to take a flyer on these two proven champions with synergy.
I don't think they're taking a chance. I think what happened was Misfits took a chance last year saying, we're going to make a super team, and if it fails, you're going to have to go low budget. Now they're realizing, okay, we're going to have to save some money, and now they're spending less, and now they're getting the regional talent. So they found the best regional talent. Grant, that's not saying they're bad. That's just saying that Misfit is going with a budget approach here now, and it's going to make them a winner in the offseason, because I think it should have been the approach for a lot of these teams in the first place, and it's going to pay off because these guys are hungry.
Equal validity, I think, in both approaches at this point. I don't want to go
One's
all the
more
way. I think we
cynical,
can
one's
both be
more
correct.
positive. I like it.
I love how Miles came in with the positivity and Crumbs was just like, nah, it's the money, dude. Come on. It's like immediate right to the
such a
economics. Speaking of Spain, one team we really haven't talked about because they really only have one free agent, and you could pretty much guess that they're going to run back the team that they had that was so dominant, except for one game, is G2. I mean, really, their sub Promiscu is the only one that's a free agent on this list. But what do you like? It's such a fascinating situation if you're G2, if you're Carlos, right? You're looking at your team and you're like, this team is amazing. They won championship after championship. They were dominant. They made it to the finals at Worlds. They won MSI. They almost completed the Grand Slam, but they didn't. So when you look at that team this offseason, if you're Carlos, what are you thinking, Emily?
I mean, I'm glad that they're sticking with the team. I think the team is still really good. I still think they were, like, G2 was the team of 2019, just like Where I'll Never Give Up was the team of 2018. I know that's like the extent of my hot takes today, by the way. I'm sure that will make people really angry. But I think I really like that they're hanging on to this lineup. I think this lineup is phenomenal. I really love this team. You're probably, if you like listen to any of my Worlds content, you're probably sick of hearing me say that. But I think this is an excellent lineup. And I think with another year playing together, like, this is not a risk at all, right? Like, you already know that they're good.
Yeah.
The only thing they didn't do is win a world championship, and I do think they have the talent and they have the synergy to be able to do that.
I will say this, though, Dorian B doing it for the married dudes out there. Appreciate the married meta fam. Good job on that. But going back to G2, I mean, last year a big move for them was the perks and caps, right? The switching of positions, bringing caps in. And as you look at the contracts there, they have this team set until 2021. They can run it back for the next 2 years if they wanted to. So, Tyler, when you look at this, let me ask you this, actually. The perks and caps switch over from last season, when you look at it now, was that the best move of last year's free agency?
It has to be. It has to be. I remember when I first heard that news, I was at a football game in the stands, and I had like 3 people DM me, be like, I heard this crazy rumor that Perks is going to AD, and I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever. Why? Why mess up? You're the 2 best mid laners in Europe, possibly 2 of the best mid laners in the world, and you're gonna, role swap one and change the team dynamic. And a year later, I look like a fool, right? It was an amazing move. I think 2018's offseason, I think this year is the Jungle Book, as you said. It's all about the junglers.
Thank you.
Last year, it was about the super teams, right? We had 3 super teams. We had Misfits, the super team, and now we just saw their latest move. They are going low budget, and they imploded. We had Team Liquid, who did well domestically, but couldn't get over the hump internationally. And now they're looking to maybe make a move in the jungle, one player change. And you have G2, who was the best super team of all time, 1 match away from winning the grand final, and they showed that the super team model can work, but for only them. So, 1.5. I give Liquid a half. Liquid made the MSI finals, technically.
Okay, here's the thing with Team Liquid, though, right? Like, other than Xmithy, all their players expire in 2020. So isn't the temptation there to run it back, right? Like, I mean, look, they're dominant in the LCS. Nobody is debating this. But they go to Worlds, and they just don't get the job done, right? They don't get out of groups. They don't have a great performance. If not for that Xmithy Barron steal, by the way, in round 1, where would they have been, right? Like they might have been even worse off after that first round. So what I'm wondering is, should there be that, like, should they succumb to that temptation, or should they be making moves? Like, what is the right play for Team Liquid for 2020?
I don't know if there's a right play, but it really depends on what you want to do, right? Because you have this incredibly successful roster, and you need to decide how good can they continue to be, right? When I look at G2, I'm like, this team did so well in their first year, and I feel like Perks, as good as he is, still has way more room to improve as a bot laner, which is actually insane when you think about how good he is, right? So you look at G2 and they're running it back because they have an incredibly skilled team that still has like a potential upside for growth. With TL, it's whether they think they have that same thing if they want to run it back, right? So do they want this roster for another year? And if they do they feel like there's much growth potential there?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that was a fascinating move, right? Perks and Caps, the position switch, their Caps coming in. And what was also fascinating, we were talking about this off camera, was how much reverence Caps and Doinb had for both of them, for each other, before they went to the finals. They both said, I would love to play against them. And you were mentioning something about how they were early scrim partners.
Yeah, they scrimmed each other like quite a lot. I think they scrimmed each other the most of any teams that each other faced. And I think they had a great deal of respect for each other as teams. And I think the cool thing about Caps and Doinb is that they go to Jacob Wolf for news just like everyone else does. Jacob, what's the latest?
So here's a weird curveball for you. 100 Thieves will be signing Ryoma, who is the former mid laner of Bombers, the Oceanic Pro League team. It's uncertain whether he's going to start for the LCS team at this point, but it is an option that they are weighing as they move forward in their offseason.
Okay, well, this is very interesting. Not something that we might have expected. Bombers were the Split 1 champions in Australia. I'm sure that Crumbs and Miles have some thoughts on this one. Ryoma, 100 Thieves, Crumbs. Give us your mildest take on this one.
Mildest take? Well, Papa Smithy's Australian, so I'm sure he has something to say about scouting Australian talent. And they're not the first team to do it either. The Golden Guardians had FBI last split as well, so it looks like teams are looking elsewhere than the LCK for talent, and it's a pretty good sign. Now, I will say I don't know much about this player. I did see some highlight reels the other day. He looks to be an aggressive mid laner, but this team has a lot to work with already, right? They have some.
Oh my God! Sorry, Crumbs. I gotta go back to Jacob. Jacob, what do you got?
Here's the big one. It's not Xmithy, but it is somebody in my top 5 free agents list. So, Origin are finalizing terms to sign Upset, the former AD carry of Schalke 04 Esports.
Woo!
Okay, so Offset goes to Origin.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Upset. This is a really interesting move for Origin specifically, especially since we don't know who their support is going to be.
Now he's a coach.
Now that Mithy left to coach Fnatic. So I think that's the thing that I'm the most curious about. When I look at bot laners, I always kind of try to look at the lane in tandem. So I really want to see who he's going to be playing with. But I think Upset is remarkably talented. And again, I think he has a lot of growth potential, despite the fact that he's been in the league for a little bit now. I think on the right team, he could just become like an absolute insane, like take over the entire European scene kind of player. He just has to kind of find the right fit for him as a team.
So when I picked my 2 best free agents, right, or I was deciding between the 2, it was Kave or Upset. Kave is the person that's consistent. You know what any of Kave. You can trust Kave. He's always going to be an 8 or 9 out of 10. Upset, more volatile, but he gives you those 10 games, those 11 out of 10 games. He's that I can be a top 5 player in the world feelings when you watch him sometimes. He has that so much talent, has that peak ceiling that you want from a player. He's like a Caps, I think, very similar, where when he is on, when he's playing at his best, when he's rolling, he's unstoppable. And I think OG sees that, and OG's building a team, I believe, that really wants to compete next year, and they're going to spend the money to get there. Because Upset was very highly scouted by many, many teams. A lot of teams wanted upset, and OG got them. So OG's not messing around this offseason. OG wants to win.
So Origin were the runner-up in spring. They missed the playoffs in the summer, so a big drop there. Crumbs, I want to send this back to you. If you want to finish your thought on Ryoma, feel free to go ahead. But also give us your thoughts.
There's more bombs coming.
Oh, there's more bombs. Okay, so give us your thoughts on this move here, upset going to Origin.
I mean, it's what Tyler is saying. The fact that Origin is now going to be making a pretty nutty team, and they have their carries set out, right? You have Alfari, Nuke Duck, and Upset. You really can't ask for more out of those guys. So now it's a matter of building the utility core of this team, which is going to end up allowing these carries to really shine. And if they're going to be spending a lot of money, I think they're probably looking at buyouts from a lot of other teams instead of going for free agents. So I think I'm expecting Origin to steal away critical pieces out of other teams. And, you know, a team like Fnatic, who just has a new coach, who might be trying to change the culture, a good place to start would be trading some players.
Yeah, and there's those 3 big question marks at Jungle. Well, now Broxa is available. We could see him added to Origin. This team, I think, significantly underperformed last year for the roster that it was given. They had flashes of it, were competitive early in the summer split, but sort of fell off and became a real non-factor. I think there is an opportunity for Origin to sort of take the learnings of the way Splice played at Worlds, sort of trying to be drawing even in the early game and really have a late game focus to try to build around Kabe. There's an opportunity to do that with Upset because I see both of those 2 players as similarly gifted and similarly able to carry a team into the late game. So no matter how Origin wants to rebuild, there is certainly a bar of expectations that they failed to clear last year. And now with Upset, hopefully have that ability to this year.
The official wants a finals.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Well, Origin certainly among the teams that are very busy so far in this free agency.
No.
We're getting busier. Jacob, what's new?
We're going to be talking about Upset's teammate. Ignar, the support for Schalke 04 Esports, will be going to FlyQuest, moving across the pond.
Whoa! FlyQuest, let's go! Let's go, FlyQuest. Did I not call that yesterday?
You did.
Did I not call that yesterday?
You did.
Give me a little bit of credit, okay? Hang on a second.
Good job.
Where's my pat on
Thank
the back?
you very much.
I called this.
Unofficial mascot.
Let's go! FlyQuest, getting that Giannis money. Let's go.
Yeah.
So, Ignar to FlyQuest, flying across the pond. He's no stranger to moving around.
Yeah.
He's played in many different places. What do you make of this move?
Ignar was supposed to come to NA, 4 years ago? 5 years ago?
The Winter Fox days.
The Winter Fox days, and he never came over. Now finally, the prophecy has come true. Ignar is finally coming to NA. I like it. Ignar will be with Wild Turtle. I believe they will keep Wild Turtle, as Wild Turtle is their representative for everything. Wild Turtle is their, he's there for scouting grounds. He was there as a journalist in Europe for FlyQuest. He does everything. So Ignar and Wild Turtle. What do you think about that, Emily?
I think it's a lane that wants to go in. So Ignar is known for being an initiator, like he wants to be an initiator. He wants to be making plays. Wild Turtle, no stranger to being aggressive, wanting to initiate, wanting to play, maybe too far forward in certain people's opinions. So I think you're looking at a lane that actually could be quite an aggressive bot lane. And we're looking at the rest of this team.
And there's the roster.
Yeah, I really love this team, actually. I think very highly of Santorin, actually. I think he's a really strong jungler. Pobelter is always like a stable mid laner. And then Viper has, again, you're talking about a player who's going into basically his second year of LCS play, and he still has a lot of room for growth. So this is a really interesting lineup, and I think with Ignar, again, it gives that bot lane like a punch, like these are 2 players that really are probably going to want to trade. They're probably going to play pretty far up in lane. They are 2 players who are known for being aggressive and wanting to initiate. So that's something that's really interesting to me.
Did you, who did you say Wild Turtle's favorite hockey team was?
I believe the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Let's go, Wild Turtle! Let's go, Wild Turtle! And speaking of Canadians, I think we have another one waiting to talk to us. We got Jat on the line.
What?
Yes, longtime Riot caster is joining us on the line. Jat, how are you? Where in Canada are you from? I couldn't find this online.
British Columbia.
Let's go, BC.
Yeah.
Kelowna, Vancouver, Victoria, where are you from?
No, Cranbrook. It's a small town inside BC near Alberta.
I love it. We needed more Canadians on the show, and here you are. I'm very glad that you're here joining us. Give us your thoughts on
Thanks.
the news that we have heard so far on the show.
The most exciting one I saw just now was the trade at the start with Smoothie and Biofrost, I think, is huge. I think Upset signing is huge. And then the big one that's going to have big ripples is the fact that Brox's not coming back to Fnatic. So all of the firefighting they were doing with, hey, we don't hate each other, we're just great, and they're just got what was that a ruse? What? I can't wait for that story to keep developing.
Where do you think Broxa goes? Team Liquid?
I mean, are we even sure he's off Fnatic?
Technically, he's still contracted.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess we're only speculating at this point, of course. But the jungler's a very fascinating position right now, right? We're still waiting for Xmithie and what's going to happen there, and then all the dominoes will fall there. Give us your analysis. What do you think Xmithie does?
So I think Xmithie is the most experienced jungler in North America, and he does whatever the game calls of him. So right now, even though I can see a world where TL moves on from Xmithie and tries to do an upgrade, I think Crumbs brought up earlier in the show that the jungle is changing. I think Xmithie is probably the best possible player to have with an uncertain future in the jungle because he's been around for literally every different jungle and should be the most capable of adapting. And that's the added wrinkle with all of these jungle free agents is the fact that we don't know if their playstyle is going to suit what the game demands of them.
Then there's some information on Xmithie on your screen there. Of course, we are, as we mentioned, all waiting for Xmithie's decision or some news on what is going to happen there, particularly for all the junglers, the depth of the jungler, which there are 8 that have at least played one game in the LEC and LCS, Chat. One thing I want to pick your brain on is not only are you a revered commentator for Riot Games and League of Legends, but also a sort of an NA historian, right? People know you as somebody who knows the NA scene very, very well. I want to get your thoughts on Team Liquid right now. I find it fascinating that they are, without a doubt, the best team in the LCS, but then they go to Worlds and they have the performance that they do. What do you do? What do you do if you're that team?
You probably keep trying because if we just look back at NA's history and, just look at Doublelift. He's won 3 games in group stage basically every single year I think the last 4 or 5. And the last time he was on the unquestionable best team in NA and they decided to blow up the team because they needed to make it further, that team stopped going back to Worlds. That was TSM when they switched Ven and Mythy. So just because you're the best in your region and you're not going far at Worlds doesn't mean you need to completely flip out the book. I think they've been close and they need a small step, right? One more game in stage, one more group stage victory in any of the past 4 years for Doublelift, and he moves on. So it's not like a seismic shift that they need to make. I think they just need to get slightly better, and then they can actually make it.
As we take a look at Team Liquid's roster here, of course, Core JJ, the only non-resident player. We have a question mark at jungler, of course, waiting for Xmithie's decision. I have to ask, Jat, sorry, I got distracted by your dog in the background. Can you please give us a name and some details on the dog? Was that a corgi?
Oh, that's Kubo. He's a Shiba Inu. He's about 2 years old right now. So,
oh, yes.
Yeah.
Dogs of League of Legends. I love it. We need to start a Twitter account for your dog. Does your dog have a Twitter account, actually?
He actually has he has a very popular
used to
Instagram.
pick matches.
I don't run. But
That's
he used to pick
amazing.
matches. He actually has more Instagram followers than I do.
Oh, my God. Of course. Well, naturally, everyone loves dogs.
I should really just focus on him.
Another big topic is the salaries. I mean, we know what Huni's salary is reported by Jacob, of course, and the buyout of Vulcan. Yeah. When you're hearing these numbers, Jat, what's going through your mind?
Those are huge numbers, and we saw the big numbers actually happen 2 years ago when franchising started. I think there were rumors that Jacob Wolf talked about impact salary. None of these salaries are public, so all of the stuff we just look at Jacob Wolf's tweet and just take it as fact because I feel like that's the way this stuff works. But overall, I think what happened with Evil Geniuses coming in, with Immortals coming back in, there's more new teams trying to make a splash, and that ripples the salaries a little bit upwards for most of the league that are trying to sign free agents.
Would you be in favor of every salary being public like sports leagues?
I think I would like it. I don't know if it's good right now, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if the league, from like a collective bargaining standpoint or from a player agency standpoint or any of that stuff, is necessarily at par with the normal sports leagues that already have decades worth of infrastructure to kind of justify that decision. I would love it as a fan to know what everybody makes, but I don't know if the league's ready for it.
Last question for you, Jat, and thank you very much for joining us here. Really, really glad to have you here, fellow Canadian, of course. Looking back on some of the biggest moves in free agency history, ones that you've covered, ones that you've seen, ones that have really stood with you, what do you remember?
I think last year Caps going to G2 and Perks role swapping to AD carry was the big one. And then when Double have switched teams were the biggest free agency ones, either time Double have switched teams, when he went to TSM and then to TL. And speaking of which, Theon about an hour and a half ago said people would like TSM's bottom lane, and we still haven't heard what happened there. When are we going to hear about that?
Unbelievable.
Jacob Wolf.
Yeah, right? Hey, actually, before we let you go, do you have any... What? Yeah,
He's calling me out.
Before
You teased it.
It's true. What do you say, Tyler?
It's in progress.
It's in exactly.
As
Exactly.
everything is, it's in progress.
Yeah, whatever. Hey, speaking of bombs, though, Jat, do you have any Jat bombs? Any commentary shifts? Can you announce an extension live on the show? What can you tell us? Anything?
I wish. I'll be casting next year. That'll be fun. But other than
There
that,
you go. Let's go.
other than that, I have been trying to watch this as much like a fan as possible. So please tell me all of the stuff and do it quickly.
Jat, you're the man. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, so if you're just joining us, thank you, by the way, for joining us. And we are live on twitch.tv/ESPN Esports and the ESPN app, as well as YouTube and on Twitter. We have had a total of 10 Wolf Bombs. Who had the over-under,
Whoa, Wolf Bombs. There was one Theon.
Sorry, pardon me. You're absolutely right. I stand corrected. There were 9 Wolf Bombs and 1 Theon Bomb. That lasted 7 seconds before Jacob took back the championship. But you had that 7 seconds, though.
I still have 15 minutes. I still have 15 minutes. I can catch up.
So if you're just joining us and want a little bit of a recap, don't forget you can go to espn.com/esports. There's a live tracker there. It will tell you every single transaction that has happened, even previous to this, anything that Jacob has reported, and anything that is happening live right now. It will all be on that website. Once again, espn.com/esports. C9 has sent Golden Glue to Golden Guardians, got Palafox back in return, likely to C9 Academy. We started the show with a contract extension for Vander and Hans Sama being bought out by Misfits, and Misfits has been in the news, as we just talked about them, getting some young players from Vodafone. So there are some movements from Misfits, also with Origin, and all of that, like I said, is up in the live tracker. So everything that we have heard now, Emily and Tyler, let's start with you on this one. If we were to crown early winners and losers of all the news that we've heard, Tyler, what do you think?
OG. Origin. I think they have their core set up. Alfar is one of the best Western top laners. Nuke Duck at times can be one of the best. He's an explosive talent. And then you have Upset, who just has sky-high potential. I really love their team. And I think there's so many good junglers on the market. There's so many junglers that they've shown they will spend money by getting Upset. So when they get their jungler, whoever it could be, Broxa, Xerxes, Clid, any of these big... Hey, don't lie. It could be Clid. He's a free agent. It could be Xmithy. It could be OG Xmithy. Who knows? Who knows? We haven't got the Wolf Bomb yet. But...
Tarzan.
It could be Tarzan. No, Tarzan.
It can't be Tarzan.
Griffin is not totally Tarzan. We can create... Yeah.
It cannot be Tarzan.
Not Tarzan. But OG, for me, right now looks like a winner. They're going to add a strong jungler, I would presume. And I think... they're looking at G2 and Fnatic saying we are the third big dog in Europe, and it's going to be a 3-team race going into next year.
Emily?
So I was also going to say Origin, but I also want to call some attention to FlyQuest, because again, I think this is a lineup that is definitely a playoff caliber lineup, and I want to see how much they can expand their growth potential if that Ignar and Wild Turtle lane does work out and they can play as aggressively as I think they're both capable of doing. I really love the rest of this roster, and I think they have a lot of potential. So since Tyler already talked about Origin, even though I'd still say the upset is the biggest signing, I'm really curious to see this FlyQuest roster in action because, as we know, names on paper do not always translate into in-game success. Just a reminder.
Okay, I'm going to throw out some names that we haven't talked about yet that are free agents. You let me know what you think is going to happen to them, okay? Jizuke. Jizuke is currently a free agent, played for Team Vitality in Europe. He was a big part of Vitality this year. He helped the team make the playoffs back-to-back. Top-tier mid laner, free agent. What do you think?
I have no idea, but I mean, I'm like really bad at calling and slotting in teams.
Okay, fair
but
enough.
I'm very curious to see who does pick him up because I was surprised to see that he wasn't re-signed.
That's a tough choice. I was also probably a lower ranked LEC team, maybe like an XL. I can maybe see XL picking up a Jizuke type player with the kind of the core they're building out there with Patrick and Norskaren. So I'd guess XL.
What about Tanner Time? Does he find home? Tanner Time, what are we saying about DeMonte?
There's one place where I think he fits the best. I think 100 Thieves. I think I know they got Ryoma.
Smithy on the phone.
I know.
He's like, hey,
I know.
Tanner Time.
I know they have their Ryoma, but it has not been confirmed that he's a starter yet. And I think with Tanner being, let go from Dignitas for reasons, we're looking at the scope of the landscape right now of the league. And I think just look at the branding of 100 Thieves. Like, can't you just picture Nadeshot and DeMonte in like the Cash App content house?
100%.
Like having
100%,
fun,
you're absolutely right.
hanging out,
Yep.
Courage and DeMonte.
Yep, 100%.
Like he fits
Yes.
that brand so well, and he's so marketable, and he knows how to have fun. He knows what he likes to have fun, and it's great.
Guaranteed they would start a podcast. Nadeshot,
Yes.
Courage, and DeMonte would have a video. Courage and Nadeshot already do a podcast. DeMonte would fit in so well there. I agree.
I just want someone to pick him up. Like I said, I know we already talked about Golden Glue. He was the anime that I was referencing, by the way. So that was like kind of a weird spoilery thing. But I think NA, I know that DeMonte didn't have as strong of a performance as, say, Vulcan did when Clutch was at Worlds. But I still think that this is a player, again, who we talk about growth potential if a team is willing to invest in him.
Right.
I really want to see that. Again, I want to see North America take some chances on their own talent and trying to raise them and putting in the work and the time to, improve these players.
Right.
And DeMonte is someone who's already proven that he can learn, that he can adapt, that he can grow as a player. And I think that's already like a really phenomenal thing that we've seen in real time. So I want to see a team pick him up.
Let's throw to Los Angeles with a couple names. What about Gorilla? I heard there was a little bit of a LCK battle back and forth with maybe a little tampering claims happening there with BDD throwing some pictures up on social media with his former teammates saying, hey, you guys would look great in these jerseys, and all of a sudden that happened. All right, let's not talk about Gorilla. I saw that there. It's okay. It's all good. How about Afromu? Is he staying with 100 Thieves?
Ooh, I have to imagine that's a no-go because the Papa's coming in hot, and they're going to be looking at refreshing that team, and they've already had enough time with Afro, and it just did not gel well with Bang. That synergy was not there, and so if you are the Thieves, who are you going to listen to when you're making a new bottom lane? Would you rather have Afro decide on his new carry, or would you rather have Bang decide on his new support? So I think that the Thieves will choose Bang over Afro, and he'll have to look for a new home.
Yeah, but where? I think the biggest opening in terms of support vacancies was just filled by Ignar. I think what you get on FlyQuest, I think what you get with Afromu is a very skilled, very experienced player who brings a lot of his own popularity and branding with him. So any team that has a vacancy.
But what about
for him-
winning?
What about winning? You know what? It's not always about winning, Crumb. Sometimes you want to build your brand and excite the fan base with a big signing like Afromu. And there is an opportunity for him to do that in more places than just 100 Thieves. But it'll be interesting to see who picks him up. I think he could be excellent, not only as a player, but also as a coach as well.
I think the problem was that this split was particularly rough of a showing for him, and it's going to stick in a lot of teams' heads as just a blanket over him, and that's going to be difficult for him to find a new team that he specifically wants because of that. Keep in mind, the reputation that the players have might not be any indication of what they're actually like, but the teams don't care. That's what they base their decisions off of, and if Afro has a poor reputation this split based off his gameplay, it's going to hurt him.
Could you see Immortals? Immortals currently doesn't have a support signed. Both Big and Gate are free agents. If that is the kind of mentality that Ari Siegel and Immortals want to enter the LCS with, make a big splash signing, I think they could do worse than Afromoon.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Let's stick with Los Angeles, actually. Miles, let's start with you on this one. Winners and losers. I didn't ask you guys that question, so take it from there.
I think it's pretty obvious. G2 has won the offseason. Not only has their biggest rival, Fnatic, lost their star jungler in Broxa, but also Perks' best friend, Mithy, is now secret agent Mithy as the coach of Fnatic. Carlos somewhere is having a very early morning drink in a nice smoking jacket and a leather chair, just with his hands like this, casually sipping. He is having the time of his life. G2 are going to repeat as the rest of Europe apparently collapses around them.
It's hard to say that their roster is not the best coming into the offseason, but I agree with Emily. I think FlyQuest actually really did a good job with getting Ignar because their biggest problem was you just have a team full of supporting players. You have Centaurin, Pobelter, and even Viper as a younger player. They're not leading players. They've always needed somebody to really drive the aggression in the team. And when you have Ignar, now you can have a team that can play as fast as hopefully Wild Turtle, and if they all get on that same page, that could completely transform them and give them exactly what they need to get back to playoff form, which they accomplished being passive in the first spring split anyways.
I like to pat myself on the back, by the way. Did I not say at the top of this show that we would have a Korean import support for a North American team? Thank you, ladies and
So
gentlemen.
yeah, the
This is
TSM
our-
bot lane is the only thing that has not
profit
come
right
true.
here.
Oh, man.
Let me
patting
just
you, yeah.
round of
Good job,
applause for
Miles.
Miles. Miles did a great job. All right, we're going to move along. We have a segment here that we like to call retweet or delete. So the both of you here, Tyler and Emily, we're going to show you a series of tweets, and you will decide whether you would tweet this.
Oh!
Never mind. That's we're just going. Jacob's like, we're not doing that segment at all. All right,
Hey,
Jake,
so-
what do you got?
So we're all talking junglers, but it is still not Xmithy, but it is related. So Broxa will be acquired by Team Liquid with Fnatic. That is currently being done. It is not finalized yet at this point, but with them moving Selfmade into Fnatic from SK Gaming, that is the next step in the domino.
The dominoes are falling.
Wow, so it's not the Xmithy news that begins the dominoes now, but they are definitely starting to fall.
Broxa team, Steve is one step closer to the 5 import dream.
Wow.
Impact,
Wow.
Impact
He keeps
Broxa.
That's so
replacing him.
We are ending the show with a bang. What time is it? We have about 4 minutes to go.
Oh.
We are ending the show
We don't
with
know
a bang.
yet. We still have 4 minutes. We can get 5 wolf balls in that time.
We could, but this is like the
big one.
meaty. Yeah, this is a juicy piece of news we just got here.
Whoa.
Fascinating because we haven't even heard what's going to happen. I guess that's it.
They moved on from Xmithy.
Now we can talk about where Xmithy will go. Finalizing acquisition of Broxa from Fnatic. Okay. First question. Crumbs alluded to this already, but I want to ask both of you here. Emily, let's start with you. Does this make Team Liquid better?
That's an interesting question because I actually really highly value Xmithy. It's really going to depend, and again, like you asked me about Broxa earlier, his jungle style, how much of that was defined by Fnatic and how much of that was defined by he himself, and then also how well does he mesh with the map changes that are coming in? Because to Crumbs' point, one of the weirdest things about jungle right now is that we don't know how well these junglers are going to adapt or how quickly they're going to adapt. I think Broxa is an excellent player. I'm looking forward to seeing him on a team that is not Fnatic, because I really want to see, what is his style, what is he going to look like on TL, which is I guess a bit similar to how Fnatic plays, but also a bit different in terms of they tended to go for slower scaling 5v5s, which was also what Fnatic was known for. But Impact doesn't draw as much attention in the top lane as Guipo does. He's more of a supportive.
Whoa! I told you!
More to come.
He wasn't done.
And
North American team, Team Solo Mid, are finalizing negotiations with Kabe
There we go.
for Splice AD carry.
My prediction came true.
you got it.
At the
Well done.
final minute.
Go ahead and pat yourself on. Wait till we can see you again. But talk about Kabe right now coming from Splice.
I was very, very happy on this. Biofrost and Kabe, immediately they can challenge Doublelift and CoreJJ as the best bottom lane in NA. And I don't think any other bottom lane last year had any sort of answer towards those two. Bio and Kabe is a bottom lane I'm very excited for. And so Team Liquid versus TSM is going to be spicy.
Man, Splice can look so different next season. Vizichachi retiring. You got Kabe moving. Xerxes a free agent. Norscarin left. I mean, my goodness. This team could look completely different, Emily, in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty nuts. I'm happy to see Kabe. I mean, it'll be interesting to see him on TSM. I'm glad that he seems to have found a good home because, again, I think he is incredibly consistent AD carry. I think he is definitely someone that you can rely on to be consistent. Sorry, not inconsistent, consistent. So yeah, this is a good pickup from TSM, and it also we are going to see where Sven ends up now.
Oh my gosh. This is really picks up right at the tail end of the free agency show. Unbelievable. There's TSM's list right there. Broken Blade, merhabalar to my Turkish friend Broken Blade. Bjergsen at mid, of course. AD carry, Kabe now, and Biofrost from a trade in support. But we still have no answer on Xmithy.
TSM has
TSM
has an open jungler spot. They need a native jungler.
Yeah.
I mean, we have Meteos, like Xmithy.
There's so many.
Xerxes, Clid.
Well, the good thing about it all is that this is not the end of free agency. This was simply the first hour and a half. So it will continue on as we lead in to the 2020 League of Legends seasons, particularly in the LCS and LEC, which we focused on here. We want to thank you very much for joining us here on our free agency show. To Crumbs and to Miles Yim, thank you so much for joining us, boys. You guys are the best. Thank you to Jat. Thank you to Fly for calling in as well. And by the way, thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Emily, for joining us as well. This has been an absolute blast. Don't forget to follow twitch.tv/ESPN Esports. What? How do you stop my end? I was ending so smooth.
Jacob?
What you got, Jacob?
Is that that's a thank you howl.
That's a thank you.
Well, thank you to the man, our AD carry.
Thank you, Jacob.
Wolf is the man. He's the absolute man that drove this ship. And it was really his and your idea that put this together, right? That you guys pitched this idea, had it for years, and now look at this.
For years, me and Jacob had this idea of doing this show, and Dave Presley, our video producer.
Thank you so much to our producers.
Producers Thomas, Dave,
Daniel, Colette, Eba, Jarrett, Prez.
Without them, we couldn't do this.
You guys are absolutely wonderful. And thank you for watching. Free agency looms on. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at ESPN_esports. I can go throw out my giant stack of papers now. The bombs have been flowing. Have a great night, everybody.